What's up, friendly neighborhood nerds? You caught us on a very saucy episode because we're going to address some drama. So get this, we had some shit go down on Twitter, Tumblr, and Instagram, and this is like over 10 years in the making, by the way. So here's the quick rundown. J. Scott Campbell, the artist, drew a cover for Spider-Man 601 back in 2009, featured what I would call a, let's see, what's the word? A very boobalicious image of Mary Jane Watson. About 6 months ago, Tumblr user nonbinaryfinnmertens, who we're just for the sake of expediency, we're going to refer to as Finn from here on out, submitted a redrawn fix in quotation marks of the cover, submitted to at Fixing Bad Comic Art, which is a blog dedicated to fixing bad or problematic comic book art.
So I'll be honest with you. I only know this from Instagram. So it's been all over social media, but that Instagram post blew up. 38,000 likes by my last look, and I'm sure it's still rising. So Campbell decides to like clap back and give a little fix of the fix and
double fix,
like a double fix. And let me tell you, first of all, let me just say before I say anything else, dude's a pro. So Finn gets a little lesson in just what a pro Campbell is and points out everything. By the way, Finn's art, I like it. It's one of those kind of things where I didn't know what was wrong because I'm not an artist. I didn't really know what was wrong with it until Campbell lets me know what's wrong with it. Your elbow's not supposed to look like that. Why is there no texturing in the shirt? Why is her legs super parallel and stiff? And he says that she looks like a puppy dog versus a independent woman. He's starting to like be pretty cheeky in his responses and stuff. The end art that he does is phenomenal, by the way, because of course he is a professional. And yeah, I mean that's pretty much what happened.
But it didn't end there. This blew up off the rails. The animosity came out, the fighting started. So first thing we kind of saw was the professional blue checkmark type artists really getting Campbell's back. It's rude to redraw people's art. That was kind of their perspective. They weren't really taking a stance on the actual content. What they were saying is it's just unacceptable it's disrespectful to treat Campbell's work like this. And then, you also had a lot of people that agreed with Finn that were clapping back at the clapping back at the clapping back. And they were, saying, that he's immature for taking it so seriously. He's a pro. He shouldn't be doing that. And then both of those groups have some valid points. But then you had the third group, which is the CG Comicsgate simp whack jobs in the comment sections that were just throwing sexist gas on the flames. With right-wing, alt-right talking points and really attacking Finn for being non-binary. And that's really where it just kind of hit the gutter.
Yeah. So what do we think about it? Well, for what it's worth, I do think that, I kind of like read a little bit into this, read a lot of the other artists' comments. And I could see that there's a perspective that I didn't really look at first, and that's the whole tackiness, as Campbell calls it, of correcting another artist's art. So I don't understand that. That's not an emotional thing for me because I'm not an artist. But okay, I mean, if that's a thing, if that's like a known, like kind of like journalistic integrity, right? It's like a thing that's kind of unwritten. If that's an art thing, then valid. I think that's like how dare you? How about you just go and do your own thing better? Do the thing you want to see. So I do think that's I do think that's valid. But the Tumblr is fixing bad comic art or whatever. So it's the whole thing about that. So I guess we should be attacking everybody on that blog because that's what it's really for, correcting other people's art. Now, I went on the account. Typically, I don't do this. I usually use my own account. But I was on I Freaking Love Comics, our Instagram account, as I'm just kind of thumbing through, and I was too lazy to change accounts. And I did kind of leave a comment that Mr. Campbell was so gracious as to reply. So I write, makes sense to be offended, but the comment section is giving off some real CG/alt-right vibes. To be clear, I don't, nobody said anything about CG. At this point, if you are alt-right, give it some like low-key or high-key bigotry, then I'm just calling you like CG by default. But I don't think anybody said DCG in the comments. J. Scott Campbell says, no, it's anti-art censorship vibes. It's anti-book burning vibes. I don't subscribe to CG, alt-right, hate groups of any kind. By the way, really love that he directly like set that shit straight. A lot of times you see people who kind of like liked having that connection with CG. They won't say they're with them because that's a, you know, you can't do that. But they'll like talk around it like, oh, you just hate anybody who doesn't agree with you. I'm like, yeah, you notice you're not saying you're not CG. Campbell doesn't do that. Straight out the gate, no hate speech, no CG, fuck CG. I'm like, all right, bet. But I can tell you this much: there are scary nut jobs on both sides. He does the both sides thing, and I'm like, okay. And that kind of rubs me the wrong way, but it's whatever. I go, oh, I don't mean you or your post, because like I said, I do think that he's valid in being irritated, and if he chooses to clap back, that's what he has the ability to do that, and he did it. I don't think his clap back is problematic at all. I don't encourage hate talk of any kind. That shit turns my stomach. I wish my venomous critics on the far left were the same way. So a little bit more of that both sides thing. So that was how our interaction went. Here's what I'll say about the whole thing real quick. A couple things. I will say that sometimes when you put something out into the social verse, and regardless of what your intentions are, regardless of what you really think about the issue, it doesn't matter. It does matter. What you intend does matter. But sometimes you can kind of get a taste of what kind of people agree with you, that maybe, just maybe, you should take a second, pause, and rethink either how you're engaging with this topic, or if you need to rethink your own anything. And I'm not saying that Mr. Campbell needs to do any of that. I'm just saying what I would do. If I put an opinion out there and it was filled with bigotry, if that's what excited them, I might stop and go, oh, wait, maybe I'm wrong here. So that's one thing. He does call it out in my comments, right? In his comments to me under the I Freaking Love Comics exchange there. But he doesn't do it as a whole, so that kind of bugs me. And then second, I will say, just so I can give my own opinion out there, I think Finn's critique of the original comic book cover, in my personal opinion, valid, not just because everyone's allowed to have their own opinion, but because I do find covers like the way they did Mary Jane a little bit, and we'll throw some buzzwords out there, warning, problematic. And not just because people are sexualized, that it's wrong to be sexualized. I don't know. I'm not an art major. I don't understand. Sometimes you could just tell when you see it. Red Sonja has been drawn by people to where you go, who is this for? Like, what are you doing? This is, and then Red Sonja with just as big breasts and a metal bikini, and you're like, that's badass. And maybe I can't put a finger on it, but sometimes there's just something off about it. I feel the same way about the original cover. Her waist is ridiculously too skinny. Her tits are popping out, and it's just like the whole pose. I think Finn's critiques, I agree with them. I don't know if it was okay or correct. I'm not saying it was good to draw over another artist's work, though. Like, what I mean? Like, maybe there's some sort of line. I don't know. And then 3, and then this is a super fast one. I think it's a little bit JV to do what he did. I agree with the people who was like, this is kind of like embarrassing, because I'm trying to imagine, because he's a pro. Like, he's an absolute pro, and you can tell by the work here, absolute pro. I cannot imagine somebody like Snyder like doing a video, clapping back at the people who were shitting on the Snyder cut. I just can't imagine it. I can't imagine like a professional actor like making a video and going, "Oh yeah, well let me see you acted better," and then maybe go to their Facebook and pull up old high school plays or something, and they're like, "Ah, you suck."
I can see Tom Cruise doing that for sure.
maybe
Yeah.
Tom Cruise, maybe.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's my opinion about the whole thing. I think they have they're valid in their own ways, but the interaction definitely rubbed me the wrong way. But to be clear, I do not think like Campbell's a bad person. I don't think he's Comicsgate. I don't think he's alt-right. Just the whole interaction was just kind of weird vibes, weird vibes.
So for me, the weirdness started after a certain point. Like there is a sort of segment of the controversy where I would say nothing really wrong has transpired. I think that Finn is perfectly rude, but allowed to critique and redraw J. Scott Campbell's work. It is rude. It's disrespectful, rude, and kind of, I don't know, shitty to do it the way that Finn did it. But I think being rude is allowed. It's the internet. You don't put yourself out there if you want people to be rude to you. J. Scott Campbell's a public figure and he creates public stuff. And he's allowed to do that. Finn is allowed to criticize it publicly on the internet. And then J. Scott Campbell is allowed to clap back. This is just internet feud 101, and I don't think anybody did anything wrong up until the point where we get to the comment section on Instagram and Twitter and the article on Bleeding Fool. Like at this point, the piranhas are in the water, and you look at those comment sections and you have just the douchebags, these people that I would imagine are CG friendly, the alt-right, the people that are mocking the non-binary part of Finn's handle. That's where they come out. And at that point, I think that Campbell had a responsibility to, in no uncertain terms, distance himself and condemn those particular commenters. Let everyone know, hey, I think Finn was kind of rude. I had a little bit of fun with clapping back, but I'm not with all these fucking people in my chat.
Nice. Yeah.
Yeah. These are not my people. So that's what I kind of wanted more from him. And he sort of did it, but I don't really think he did it the way he should have done it. So there's that. Going back to the root of the conflict. So I think regarding sexualization in art and specifically in comic book art, I think there's a lot of nuance to when it's okay and when it isn't. And I think that is specifically affected by the when and the where and the who. You go back to the 90s. This is a time when you had Witchblade with giant tits, teensy little waist. You had all of Rob Liefeld's characters, Glory. You had all these characters, teensy little waist. You had Angela in double jointed
spines. Yeah,
these double jointed spine, pencil thin waist, massive boulder titty women in comic books, and that was almost all you had. I mean, you had Neil Gaiman with the Endless and Death, and you had exceptions to the rule, but the rule was very much, if it's a female character, there's only one way she's going to be portrayed, and it's going to be highly sexualized. And I think that the complaints during that time were incredibly valid, and I would even go as far as to say is necessary, because I think it's objectively bad when that's the only way that women are represented. Skip ahead. Now it's, we're between 2009 when this came out to now. You go to a comic book store now and you're not going to have a hard time finding non-sexualized portrayals of female characters. In fact, I would say most, just based on what's in the pull box now, most portrayals are non-sexualized. You look at Noctera and you have lady protagonist, never sexualized. You look at Crossover, lady protagonist, never sexualized. You look at ENIAC from Bad Idea, Get Bad Idea, two lady protagonists, not sexualized. And really, you could just throw a rock into an LCS and it'll land on a book that has mostly non-sexualized representation. You look at the X-Men right now and anything but Emma Frost, not sexualized. So I think that a little bit of horny art is okay. I don't think that making boys horny on its own is a crime. I don't think it's a crime. I think that the crime is when that's the only thing that's available. So I don't have a problem with that, especially Mary Jane, because if you look at when Mary Jane was first introduced into Spider-Man, she's leaning in the doorway with her body at an angle. Face it, Tiger, you just hit the jackpot. The way she was drawn there, I think, had horny boys in mind when it was first characterized.
I do want to say real quick that I do think there's a difference, and don't challenge me on it because I'm not prepared to articulate just yet. But there's a difference between sexualizing and objectifying, and I think there's a lot of sexy art, with exposed skin and things like that are okay. But I'm not sure. I like when we look at like the Liefeld like double jointed spine stuff. I'm like, what are you doing? And if they're powerful characters, if they're well written characters, then I could forgive bad art like that. But when they're objectified art and two dimensional characters because they don't really matter, that's when we start getting into a problem. That was the only thing here.
Right.
Was I do think there's a difference between objectification and sexualization.
That's a valid point. I'm thinking like you can walk into an LCS right now and get Lady Death, and it's super. I don't know if it's sexualized or objectified, but it's hot and it's meant to make, I think, straight cis men horny.
Somebody in the comics, let us know. Is Lady Death sexualized or objectified?
Yeah, let us know. And it's there. It's just
Sure.
it's so easy to read around it. It's so easy to find things that are not that. So in that amount, I don't see it as much of a problem as I might have seen it in the 90s. So that's my take on that. Doesn't mean that I have a problem with what Finn did besides the rudeness of it. I think it's perfectly okay to have that opinion. And I'm not mad at J. Scott Campbell either for his response. So yeah, that's my take on it.
That's fair. Any final words for J. Scott Campbell?
J. Scott Campbell, if you're watching this, you're damn good artist. I'd really appreciate it if you took maybe a stronger stance against the more bigoted comments that you're getting in your chat and in your comment sections, because they're there. They're easy to find, and it makes you look like you're endorsing them when you don't call them out. So something to keep in mind.
The only thing I'll add to that is the both sides thing. I would say the quickness of cancel culture, and let's go all the way in and say the easily offended left that gets mad about everything is nowhere near as harmful as the outright hateful bigotry that comes from the right. And it's not the same. It's not the same. What Finn did is not the same as the bigots in the comments.
100%.
Stop both siding it. All right, ladies and gentlemen and MBs, thank you for our little short one. Let us know if you like stuff like this. Let us know what you think about this event in the comments. Also, check us out on social media, on Twitter, Instagram, all that stuff. Please give us a like and a follow, and ring the bell. All right.
Station.
If you want to hear interviews from industry pros, get first looks, and have access to endless comic content, wake up. Please wake up. You're in a coma. Your mother misses you.